What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Master Crafted. We had a nice little Thanksgiving break, but we are back and we're ready to talk about some more 40k. Phil, how you doing, buddy?
Good, Lane. It's good to be back. Definitely enjoyed my Thanksgiving. Plenty of stuffing, plenty of turkey, and I will fight anyone if they say cranberry sauce is not the most important part of a Thanksgiving meal. Good cranberry sauce, homemade, is the most important part.
It wasn't even on our table, bro. I gotta be honest. We didn't even have cranberry sauce. We didn't mess with it. We had a pretty small Thanksgiving this year though, but I can understand. I can understand the take. My to die for side is if you've ever had funeral potatoes where you like crunch up the what is it, Wheaties or whatever, or equivalent of cornflake over some like diced potatoes and a sour cream and cheese, dude. If that's not at Christmas, I'm gonna be fighting my family, guaranteed. Whether you care about 40k or not, these are also important things. Be sure to comment down below on what your favorite parts of the holiday season are and what sides better be on that table. But when we're talking about 40k, what needs to be on the table for Mission A? Because that's today's topic.
Lane and I talked about this a lot because, we care about how we get this information across. And there's so much information in 40K, and we don't want to pander or be too redundant with the information. But what we did say is there's some really important things that we need to get across to players. And the one thing that we got a lot of feedback on was like, we need more information on how people are playing missions. So what we're going to do is give some very general advice on how to play Take and Hold. Now, there are three recommended take and hold layouts. It is Tipping Point, Search and Destroy, and Hammer and Anvil. Those are the three that are recommended by GW for take and hold, which means the majority of your TOs, the majority of your tournaments. These are the three things that you're going to see for take and hold. But it is one of those ones that is pretty common, right? Take and hold, and it's because it's really straightforward for a primary. You get VP for every objective that you control up to three. So you can control your home in two. That means you get max for primary. You'll get the 15. It is very, very straightforward. But I would say it's one of the most important missions that we need to understand how to score primary well. So, Lane, when you're looking at take and hold, whether it's search and destroy, whether it's linchpin, whether it's hammer and anvil, what are some of the things that you're thinking of?
Yeah, like as you said, it is the fundamental version of 40k, right? This is the main mission you need to know how to play. And the big thing for me is understanding when is the best time for me as a player to get primary based off my matchup, and how I'm going to deny my opponent to get that differential that I'm looking for. So the first point, right? How am I going to get that, and how much can I get? We are capped at 50 primary in a game total, right? So that means to max it, I need to hold 3 twice and 2 twice, and I will get 50 points. I can't hold more than 3 for extra points, right? So if I'm a super late game army, it doesn't matter if I'm standing on all 3 no man's land and my home. I'm not getting 20 that turn. I need to be using those resources. Using those resources earlier to try to at least deny my opponent and not be planning to hold them at the end of the game, right? If I am the second player. So that is one of the major things is you're really focusing. It is probably the biggest primary scoring mission in the game currently. Being able to max 15 is actually not that hard as it is in all of the other missions. So if you're going to score big, it can be on take and hold. So really understanding that primary and being on those objectives is just so much more important than most of the other missions in the game. Then like that's one of the biggest things when we're looking at this mission. And then yeah, top and bottom of turn I think is one of the major things we always have to take into account. But that's going to be one of the focuses throughout this series is just looking at these missions. How does that affect your game plan? So why don't you go ahead, Phil, and kind of talk about that?
Yeah, so it starts off with list building. And if we talk about some of the important things, every army can do this differently. So, um, maybe it's a good rapid ingress target that forces your opponent to respect the fact that you can get onto an objective and score 15. Maybe they have to expose something to prevent you from doing that, but now they've exposed an asset to potentially get shot back in return. Or it's a unit with a reactive move, right? Or it's a heroic intervention. I can't tell you the number of times that I've been able to heroically intervene onto a unit, kill it, and then score max primary. Now, your opponent is taking a risk. None of that is a gotcha, but you are telling your opponent all of those things, and it happens all the time where you put yourself in a position where you could be on the board, lone op, stealth, an incredibly durable unit, right? Like all of those things can allow us to score primary on a mission like taking a hold, and every army does those things differently. So you know, how you need to decide how your army does it. I'm very fortunate that I play quite a few different armies and that play completely differently. Like for example, my Gene Stealer cult is a lone op heavy army. It has a lot of individual characters. It has a lot of um uh an economy. So I can sacrifice units and risk forcing my opponent out to deny my primary because I have so many assets. I'm like, I could throw one out and I don't really care. And then the flip side, my custodies is not that way, right? Like I am very, very careful in terms of how I score when I put units out because they have to get points. I cannot rely on their durability all the time to actually stand out there on an objective. Um, there are units in custodies like the my dreadnoughts, right, that stand back up. Well, those are a great tool as well because it forces your opponent to commit into you in the shooting phase and the combat phase because they have to be able to deal with both, or else I'm going to control that primary, or they have to auto see me, which is doable, but now you're exposing an asset, right? So every single one of those armies does that differently, and it starts with how am I building my list to take advantage of take and hold? So, are you putting lone op? Are you putting stealth? Are you putting reactive moves? Are you doing anything, or are you just relying on like beating your opponent straight up? I will say when you get to higher and higher tables, at 4-0, 5-0, it can't just be that. Your army has to have tools that you know how to take advantage of. And that's something you will learn as you become a better and better player, hopefully with watching these videos. Something goes into your head and like flips a switch where you're like, well, actually, I don't actually have any tools. I'm just like running at my opponent, and that's it. And that's not the way this works. Like even world leaders, right? Even Black Templars, they have tools where it's a reactive move, it's a blood surge, it's when you fall back from them, they get to move a flat 6 inches, right? There are so many tools in these armies that obviously these players are very good at using. You have to be able to identify what kind of tools you have. But if you don't have any of those tools that I just listed, I would say you're going to have a harder time winning at a mission like Take and Hold if your opponent does have those tools.
Yeah, it definitely can be difficult. I don't have most of the things you just listed in guard as I play it, but it is still possible. I do agree with Phil though. You if you are playing an army that like my crutches, I just have a lot of trash, right? I just have wave upon wave. I'm not going to lose a ton if I just end up denying you primary, but that's because that has to be my game plan, right? I am playing as more of a trash army. I'm kind of the it's not the exception to the rule, but it's just a different style of just I always have to focus on me getting value out of a unit is more on denial than securing of my own because that's the only way for those units to really have an effect on the battlefield. I don't remember the last time a guard unit ever killed anything. That's not why they're there. They are there to make the difference on primary and stuff. But yeah, having those reactive moves, having setting yourself up. I set myself up still for good heroics with guardsmen. Right, I'm like, please charge this Bulgren squad, and then I will heroic with guardsmen, so I still auto see you on my turn because you can't kill both. Right, we're still using those tools for sure, even though there's not maybe right on the surface with guard. Yeah, but very good points. I think next let's dive into how do you approach this going first versus going second. Um, Going first, this depends, right? This again, we're talking about what tricks does your army have? Are you a jaily army? Well, guess what? You are trying to rack up 15s as fast as you can for as long as you can, and trying to just deny, deny, deny. So that way, when you are tabled by the end of the game, guess what? They still can't catch up because you denied their natural all three of the first turns, and then you still were putting up at least 10s, if not 15s, and you're just making that margin so great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was I occasionally peruse Reddit, and one of the things on there that a lot of people talk about is like there was a comment that they were complaining about the difference between going first and going second. And there is a difference between going in first and going second. And in the wrong matchup, going first feels like it's the end of the world. There was some games at Worlds that definitely boiled down to that. When we're talking about two evenly skilled players, one player had the better matchup and the other player did not, and the person with the favorable matchup got to go second, so it put the game out of reach for the person going first. Now that is two equally skilled players at the top of the meta, running their best armies, playing at Worlds because they're incredible players and doing all of these things. So great. That's the position they got to. They're fantastic players. Awesome. You can always find a way to win, right? And uh, if it's equally skilled players or something like where the player is maybe a little bit more skilled than you, but you actually have the opportunity of going second, there are ways to play this game. And Lane just said it. It has to be a denial game plan, especially if you're going first. And you have to be able to play those things. So once again, in terms of list building, do you have tools to actually deny your opponent? Um, or is your plan to just blast them off the table? Well, the problem with the blast them off the table game plan is because of loan off, because of stealth, because of extra redundancy and durability, or maybe the capabilities to stand back up. There are armies that will take advantage of that and be like, okay, well, yeah, you killed me, but I was able to deny your primary going second, which you cannot allow if you're the player going first. I cannot allow the person going second to deny me and then also score points because then the game is definitely out of reach. Like it doesn't matter what you do if your opponent's able to deny your primary and score their own, you're in an incredibly tough position, and it's gonna be very hard to come back from. But every army deals with this situation differently. If I was to give a suggestion for the person going first and the person going second, these are the two baselines. Person going first, you need to control your natural. It has to be like this natural has to be yours for the entire game. On the flip side, especially in a layout like this, layout one, you need to be able to deny your opponent at least twice. Like if that's the general rule of thumb, like that is what I would give. 10 points, it's not enough of a buffer. You have to find points elsewhere. But if you're able to control your natural and deny your opponent twice, you're in a better-ish position. But then on the flip side, you probably need to score at least a 15 somewhere, right? Like you need to do it turn 2, turn 3 or something. And now we're talking about a 15-point buffer. I still don't feel comfortable with that because I'm pretty much saying that at the end of the game, like as Lane was saying, our opponent's gonna get 15. It is very, very, very difficult to stop. And I wouldn't want to be in a position where I only have a 15-point buffer. I would feel a lot more comfortable with more than that, unless my opponent has literally nothing left on the board. So that just general rule of thumb, you need to deny twice, you need to control your natural, you need to score 15 at least once. For the person going second, it's actually really easy. If you just keep the game even and you score your tens and you don't allow your opponent to deny you, I would say you have a strong possibility of just straight up winning the game. Right? You just do your basic scoring, you score your secondaries, you do everything else you need to do. You probably just win the game because bottom of five, you walk out there, you score 15, you score whatever you get for secondaries. So we're talking about at least probably 20 points, depending on what secondaries you draw, um, which is an awful feeling when you're the person going first.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely can be very difficult being that top of turn player. Nothing feels worse than getting dead draws if you're top of turn for your secondaries, and then it's just like, cool, they got extend and secure bottom of turn one. Glad I'm in the hole even more. That just makes me feel incredible. Love that for me. But no, Phil, that is, yeah, great points. I think one of the things too, right? You brought up if you're going first, right? You have to deny twice, right? If you're going second, like you can almost get away with just denying once, depending on how many times. And maybe the rule of thumb is like you can get one less denial than your opponent is more or less like the correct answer, right? Because you should, as long as you are protecting your resources, you're not overcommitting. You should be able to, really just wait till bottom of turn 5. You're just playing for the late game, right? Which, with that in mind, as a top of turn player, right? For me, with my armies, if I'm going top of turn, and I know that we're remotely even on resources, or if I have extra, then I really prefer this playstyle. But just trying to force the tempo. We've talked about this in some of the other videos, but the best way to maybe not let your opponent have a ton of stuff on the board at the end of the game is to try to get that tempo going earlier, burn through some of their extra units faster, right, and try to just get rid of as much of their scoring potential that they have in their army, so that way when the late game comes, hopefully they've got 3 or 4 units, and that way they can't do some secondary actions that they drew and stand on all of the objectives, right? You're just trying to burn through as much of their army as you can without overcommitting too much yourself, but just setting that tempo, forcing them to come deal with you, right? Forcing those trades as best you can, and then trying to push that tempo to where you have denied those 2 times, as Phil said, and you have hopefully burned through enough of their army that by the end of the game, you can still hang on to the lead that you have built up by, kind of taking that early board presence that you get from top of turn and leveraging that into enough of a strong board position to hopefully get a 15 or 2 at some point by holding the middle, or their natural even, depending on the layout.
Yeah. So if we were to give some suggestions for armies that do a mission like take and hold well, what are some armies that come to mind for you that you think effectively like execute on a mission like take and hold?
Um, Well, I will say the newcomer on the block, Victrix Guard with reactive moves and blood surges. That to me, if I was a betting man, not only are they insanely tanky, but all of those extra moves can really, really help when it comes to sticking on objectives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is what we just talked about, right? We talked about reactive moves, we talked about blood surges. Like those things can make a difference, especially in unfortunately a detachment like Gladius, where it's like, oh, you're in tactical and you get a flat 6 and you can get on these objectives relatively easily. That is very, very hard to deal with for some armies. So yeah, unfortunately, shocker,
Yep.
Victrix Guard are good at that.
Yes, they are. Other ones, AdMech has, obviously, we've talked about that in some of the meta videos. AdMech has been a bully. Anything, right? They're just tough enough, just annoying enough with those invulns. They have high OC. They're going to deny super easily with fairly cheap units, and they're also super killy. So whether they go first or they go second, they have the ability to deny very easily. They can push tempo very easily, and they'll just kill you if you step out. So that's a great combination of traits to have for a winning army.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, like, I would say like GSC is another army that does take and hold really well. I would say a lot of those horde armies, even like Tyranid, Assimilation Swarm, or anything like that, I think would be very happy on take and hold because they can deny very easily and they have that cheap trash that everyone likes. Necrons, like those warrior bricks and wraith bricks that can reanimate, like being able to reanimate back onto an objective and then auto see your opponent there. It's a bad feeling, especially when you're like, well, I don't have I don't have enough guns to kill this warrior brick that's in cover with with an invul and a field of pain. Um, what am I supposed to do here? Well, either I auto see him on the objectives, which is tough enough as it is, or try to shoot them off so there's nothing left in the unit. That's even harder with the amount of like guns required to pick up a unit like that. So um, yeah, very, very difficult. But that's a different tool. And that's a tool that some armies can definitely take advantage of to play a mission like Take and Hold. Um, some final thoughts for this mission as a whole. Um, and then obviously the layout matters too. So we're not going to go through every layout for every mission. Um, you need to combine our 2 videos. You need to watch our layout video and like have a good understanding of the layout and how to execute, and then watch this too. That way you can understand take and hold and go out there and be effective. Take and hold is primarily a bottom of 5 scoring game if you are going bottom of 5 scoring. I would, if I'm going first, I would feel the desire to apply pressure. Every one of my armies applies pressure in a different way, right? Like My Eldar applies pressure by going out and denying. Like the warp spiders jump on objectives, they flame some stuff, they deny the objectives. Great, they did their job. My Custodes, they are being extra durable. They're advancing and charging beyond the objective, and then being a menace. That way, they have to target the wardens that are right in their face, and hopefully, that means like my sisters that are on the objective are spared because of the fact that hey, you got to deal with these wardens, incredibly durable, fight first, four up involved, four up feel no pain wardens, and if you don't, they will come kill you, and then hopefully that means like my sisters stay alive, right? Or it's a heroic, or it's a rapid ingress, or whatever the case is, right? Like all of those armies are different, but it is a bottom of five scoring game. And if you're not prepared for that, as the person that's going second or going bottom, or the person that is going first, and you're not mentally already tuned into the fact that I have to find a way to get an advantage here, I have to find a way to do those things, you'll get to the end of the game and realize, oh, my opponent's about to score 20 points, and there's nothing I can do about
Yeah, that never feels good. Never
it.
feels good. Yeah, as Phil was saying, yeah, go watch the layout videos. We did just add them to a playlist of their own, so you can just go and look up the layout playlist. Now it's super easy to find whatever layout your tournament that you have coming up. So watch these videos. These will all be going into a mission playlist as well. Other than that, I think that's all we've got for Mission A. We'll be back with another one of these next week. Thank you all for liking and subscribing and commenting. Really helps us out. Please do so if you haven't already. Join the Discord. The description or the link is in the description. And we'll see y'all next time. Don't forget that victory isn't given, it is forged, and it's forged right here on Mastercraft. And we will see you all next time.
See you later, guys.